finish the diastology. The next session is the management of diastolic dysfunction. Very important. You have seen the diagnosis, but how to manage? It is also simple. It is shorter than the diagnosis. So, we are going for the management of diastolic dysfunction. But here we will take management of congestive cardiac failure, where you will learn two things, both systolic and diastolic. So, guideline for management of heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, apart from adequate blood pressure control and use of diuretics, the main goal of treatment with preserved ejection fraction is the control of risk factors. Number one, coronary artery disease, alcohol, smoking, obesity, dyslipidemia, pulmonary disease, renal disease, diabetes mellitus, in order to prevent or slow the progression of overt heart failure. Multiple studies have shown the mortality in preserved ejection fraction is mainly due to non-cardiac causes up to 50%. Now, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor, perindopril in elderly people with chronic heart failure evaluated with preserved ejection fraction and post-hoc analysis at the end of 1 year showed improvement in functional class as well as 6-minute walk test. Then mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist, spironolactone and eplerenone has shown to reduce hospitalization but was unable to reduce mortality in patients with symptomatic heart failure with ejection fraction more than 45%. With an aldosterone antagonist trial, spironolactone was also associated with increased incidence of hyperkalemia. This drug showed minimal mortality benefit. Then the diuretic used to alleviate symptoms of volume overload in Champion's trial showed significant reduction in hospitalization and symptoms improvement. Then the beta blocker. Beta blocker may benefit in preserved ejection fraction by reducing the heart rate, decreasing myocardial oxygen demand, reducing LVH, and senior trial showed nebivolol to be beneficial in all patients of heart failure irrespective of ejection fraction, but this trial included very few patients with ejection fraction more than 50%. Then the recent update data of American College of Cardiology 2017 for treatment of heart failure has given special mention to some therapies. Now, aldosterone antagonists should be used in selected patients with preserved ejection fraction. Means glomerular filtration rate should be more than 30, creatinine should be less than 2.5, and potassium should be less than 0.5 milliequivalent per liter to decrease hospitalization. It is a class 2nd recommendation level of evidence B. Routine use of nitrate or phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitor to increase activity or quality of life in patients with preserved ejection fraction has no benefit. Class 3rd recommendation level of evidence B. Routine use of nutrition supplements in patients with preserved ejection fraction has no benefit. Class 3rd recommendation level of evidence B. An optimal blood pressure target of less than 130 by 80 is required for those with hypertension and at increased risk stage A heart failure. Class 1 recommendation level of evidence B. Titration of guideline directed medical treatment to attain systolic blood pressure less than 130 in patients with preserved ejection fraction and persistent hypertension after management of volume overload. Class 1 recommendation level of evidence C. Now, epidemiological trends Indian versus Western data. In India, the data on heart failure is quite limited. According to data from Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Sciences and Technology, and secondly, according to data from the India Euclid study, being the first of its kind community-based study, surveyed the rural adult population of 10,163 patients from the peripheral health center of All India Institute of Medical Sciences, New Delhi, comprising of 6 villages from 2008 to 2012, and lastly, third study, the Trivandrum heart failure registry data included 1,205 patients with heart failure from rural as well as urban population. They concluded, all these three concluded what? Mean age of patient admitted with heart failure was 46.2 years for male and 51.3 years for female, which is much younger than the Western population, where the age was 73 years. The common etiology for heart failure in India since 1949 is with major contribution by hypertension, rheumatic heart disease. They concluded then the treatment of heart failure of preserved ejection fraction involves diuretic for treatment of volume overload, maintaining blood pressure to less than 130 by 80 millimeters of mercury, and control of risk factor. None of the other pharmacological agents like ACE inhibitor, angiotensin receptor blocker, or beta blocker have shown any significant benefit in preserved ejection fraction. As the prevalence of the risk factors like diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia increases, the prevalence of preserved ejection fraction is also bound to increase. Since the mortality in these patients is mainly due to non-cardiovascular causes, it is reasonable that apart from symptomatic relief, treatment should be mainly directed at coexistent cardiovascular factors, for example, atrial fibrillation, arterial hypertension, CAD, pulmonary hypertension, and non-cardiovascular factors, for example, diabetes, chronic kidney diseases, anemia, iron deficiency, COPD, obesity. Hence, early detection of these conditions and timely intervention should be the cornerstone of the treatment. Treatment part remains a challenging condition. Treatment part remains a challenging condition with imperfectly understood pathophysiology and difficult diagnosis. I again repeat, difficult diagnosis. Diagnosis requires the combination of signs and symptoms of heart failure number 1, preserved ejection fraction more than 50%, objective echocardiographic evidence of abnormal distensibility of LV filling and relaxation. In the year 2016, heart failure has become a preventable and treatable disease. Congestive cardiac failure categorized into systolic heart failure and diastolic heart failure. So we will combine both the things. Here you will see diastolic heart failure also. Now, congestive cardiac failure has 4 stages according to American College of Cardiology and American Heart Association. For stage A, at high risk for development of heart failure but no symptoms. In stage you don't find any symptoms, it is asymptomatic. Then stage B, asymptomatic but having structural heart disease, there is LV dysfunction. Stage C, patient symptomatic. Patient symptomatic with structural heart diseases means LV dysfunction. Then stage D, it is having refractory symptoms with end-stage heart failure, refractory and intractable heart failure. Refractory means what? Refractory means persists despite intensive therapy. And intractable means resistant to all regular therapeutic measures. Now, prevention of congestive cardiac failure applied to both diastolic and systolic heart failure. Early thrombolysis in acute myocardial infarction by thrombolytic therapy number 1. Second, early revascularization by CABG in patients with significant CAD. Third, early use of ACE inhibitors, ARBs, diuretics, beta blockers, mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist, and then a wonderful drug, Sigma's combination of angiotensin receptor blocker, valsartan plus naproxen inhibitor in post-MI patients with CCF and especially with systolic dysfunction. Then early use of prasugrel, ticagrelor and clopidogrel. This is adenosine diphosphate receptor antagonist in post-MI patients with CCF. Then fifth, optimum timing of surgery in valvular heart disease, especially MVR or AVR, aortic valve replacement, in congenital heart disease. Then fifth, sixth is better control of what? Blood pressure, lipid profile, obesity, diabetes mellitus, CKD, rheumatic heart disease, tobacco use, cardiotoxic agents like alcohol and sodium intake. It should be controlled. Then use of this continuous positive airway pressure, CPAP. This continuous positive airway pressure increases ejection fraction and improve functional status in sleep apnea. Then use of omega-3 fatty acid, fish oil. Use of omega-3 fatty acid in functional class 2nd to 4th symptom. Then use of anticoagulation like dabigatran, rivaroxaban, apixaban and warfarin in permanent, persistent, paroxysmal atrial fibrillation and cardioembolic stroke. Now, we will go stage by stage. So, management of congestive cardiac failure in stage E. Only this much is required in stage A. Better control of blood pressure, of lipid profile, obesity, diabetes mellitus, CKD, rheumatic heart disease, tobacco use, cardiotoxic agents like alcohol and sodium intake should be controlled. Only this management is included in stage A. Now, we are taking stage B and C. Stage B and C. Here, first we will take the digoxin. Now, digoxin is useful in systolic heart failure, but it is not used in diastolic heart failure, provided there is atrial fibrillation. If atrial fibrillation present in diastolic dysfunction, use digoxin, otherwise no. Then diuretics, especially thiazide, and in thiazide you must use chlorthalidone 50 to 100 mg once a day. It is useful in reduction of hospitalization and symptom improvement in systolic, and in diastolic useful in small doses. Remember, very important, use in small doses and use cautiously because it will cause hypovolemia and it will decrease LA pressure and alveolar pressure and also cause hypotension and pre-renal failure. Then inotropes including levosimendan and enoxaparin, used for short term, long term use increases mortality. In diastolic dysfunction, inotropes are not used because ejection fraction is already normal. It is not used. Then ACE inhibitors, perindopril and ARBs. In ARBs, olmesartan, valsartan and azilsartan. And Sigma's means combination of ARB and neprilysin inhibitor. This Sidmus is used in place of ACE inhibitor and ARB. Then these things have got major motility benefit in systolic. ACE inhibitor is venodilator, reducing venous pressure, and this Sidmus, it increases vasodilation and sodium excretion. Risk of hypertension and angioedema is there with Sidmus. Then in diastolic dysfunction, ACE inhibitor is useful. It lowers preload and afterload, improve myocardial relaxation and compliance of the LV, showed improvement in functional class and 6-minute walk test, and ARB not significant motility benefit here. Now you must know about perindopril, albumin, the brand name Ocean. This is your perindopril. It is a vasodilator used in preserved ejection fraction, tablet 4 to 8 mg per day. At the end of 1 year, showed improvement in functional class and 6-minute walk test. Then we go to beta blocker, metoprolol, carvedilol, nebivolol. Nebivolol is used in dosage of 2.5 to 20 mg orally once a day, and also for drug bisoprolol, newer drug, 2.5 mg to 20 mg orally once a day. Now in systolic heart failure, third generation carvedilol decreases motility, it increases ejection fraction also, decreases oxygen demand and decreases LDL. And in diastolic heart failure, it is useful improving filling because it decreases heart rate, decreases afterload and increases heart size as it is negative inotrope. Then calcium channel blocker, non-dihydropyridine and benidipine, a broad spectrum calcium channel blocker. Here you must know that dihydropyridines are not they are not useful essential except dihydropyridines like amlodipine, because it is a coronary vasodilator in doses of 10 mg per day and it decreases heart rate. So in systolic heart failure, only this amlodipine is useful and nothing else. But in case of diastolic heart failure, non-dihydropyridines like verapamil and diltiazem are used because they have positive lucitropic effect, relaxes heart muscle more rapidly and decreases heart rate. And newer benidipine, a broad spectrum calcium channel blocker. This inhibits cardiac remodeling due to pressure overload, at least partly by acting on the nitric oxide signaling pathway. The dose in preserved ejection fraction means diastolic 4 to 16 mg once a day, and it blocks all the three vascular calcium channels L, N and T, which mediate cardiovascular tone. L type responsible for vasoconstriction, N type responsible for neuroactivation, T type responsible for renal vasomotor time and aldosterone. Benidipine inhibits all these three channels and reverses the mechanism of high BP and reduces preserved ejection fraction, means diastolic dysfunction. And I forgot to tell you about your nebivolol. Nebivolol is third generation beta 1 adenogenic blocker having vasodilatory action. Remember, vasodilatory action via L-arginine nitric oxide pathway, where by nitric oxide production by endothelium nitric oxide synthetase is enhanced. Here tablet 1.5 mg per day, slowly titrate to maximum tolerated dose of 20 mg per day. Then sinus rhythm, whether sinus rhythm is required or no. In systolic heart failure, it is less important because here atrial contraction has less role as LV is normal. In systolic heart failure, LV is normal, so sinus rhythm is not required. Then in diastolic heart failure, very important role as atria has to contract more vigorously to fill to rigid non-compliant ventricle, and if atrial flutter and atrial fibrillation occurs, it will further deteriorate diastolic heart failure. So sinus rhythm is required. Then the ivabradine, very important. Ivabradine in New York Heart Association class 2nd to 4th, with systolic dysfunction, ejection fraction less than 35%, in sinus rhythm, in combination therapy, or when beta blockers, contraindicated, not tolerated, can be used in systolic heart failure, but they are not used as it may cause atrial fibrillation, diastolic heart failure. Its side effect is to cause the atrial fibrillation, so we don't use in diastolic heart failure. This is also called sinus node modulator, a heart-lowering drug indicated when the heart rate is more than 70. Ejection fraction less than 35, useful in chronic worsening heart failure, and you give 2.5 to 75 mg BD. The nitrates with hydralazine. Hydralazine is a potassium channel opener and vasodilator. And nitrates are also vasodilator. In systolic heart failure, vasodilators decreases mortality. Vasodilators are sensitive to excessive preload reduction. Remember, vasodilators in diastolic heart failure are sensitive to excessive preload reduction, which will cause weakness, dizziness, and syncope. Very important. Then we come to recombinant brain natriuretic peptide like nasiritide, a potent venous and arterial vasodilator reducing venous pressure in systolic, and also here in diastolic, a potent venous and arterial vasodilator reducing ventricular filling pressure, a long-term benefit seen by nasiritide. Then the toloptan, very important. Maximum dose you can give 30 to 90 mg, and always give some, routinely we use once daily 30 mg per day, can be given for 9 to 9 months with negative mortality. It is arginine vasopressin receptor antagonist, reduces volume overload and congestion immediately, and correct hyponatremia. Have long-term benefit. Risk of liver failure limit to use for 30 days only. Not useful. Toloptan is not useful in diastolic dysfunction. Remember. Then the endothelial receptor antagonists like bosentan, amlodipine, and phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitor like sildenafil. It lowers pulmonary arterial pressure and dyspnea and increases exercise capacity. And in diastolic failure also lowers pulmonary arterial pressure and dyspnea and increases exercise capacity. Then 13 renin antagonists like aliskiren. Aliskiren interrupts chain of renin antagonist, renin angiotensin system, and benefits heart failure. And in diastolic heart failure also reduces LVH and benefits heart failure. This aliskiren. Then mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists like spironolactone and eplerenone, useful in New York Heart Association class 2nd, 3rd, and 4th congestive cardiac failure, and in ejection fraction 35% of loss, and in refractory heart failure when GFR should be more than 30 ml per minute, and serum creatinine should be less than 2.5 mg in men and 2 mg in women, and serum potassium should be less than 5 mg. It is not useful. These mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists not useful, risk of hypertension and prerenal failure and risk of excessive preload reduction. Minimum mortality benefit. Minimum mortality benefit. Now you will go trimetazidine, very important. Everybody knows trimetazidine have come in heart failure. You surprised, trimetazidine have come in heart failure. A cytoprotective drug, it reduces heart failure and hospitalization. The last drug, many of you don't know this drug, please see. Many of you don't know this drug. This is Vericigut. Vericigut, a novel oral soluble guanylate cyclase stimulator, and it is used only in reduced ejection fraction, means in systolic, decreases mortality. Dose is 2.5 mg to 10 mg per day, taken orally, taken annually once a day. Totally new drug. It is not known to all the doctors. Now, management of end stage heart failure, stage D. Now we have come to stage D. Here we go for devices. We go for devices. Devices are made patient ambulatory and patient can go to home. Cardiac resynchronization therapy by CRT-P and CRT-D. With biventricular pacing, with end-stage heart failure, also when ejection fraction is low, less than 35%, and QRS duration is more than 120 milliseconds, and patient is symptomatic despite maximum medical therapy. Forget not CRT-D. Here, not only pacemaker attached, but defibrillator is also attached simultaneously with the pacemaker. It is something new. You might be knowing, I don't know. Then, implantable cardiovascular defibrillator. If you see there is sudden cardiac death due to life-threatening ventricular tachyarrhythmias, especially VT, VF, ICD is useful modality. Also, when ejection fraction is less than 35%. Then, ventricular assist device, VAD. VAD, patients with end-stage heart failure are made ambulatory by VAD. VAD are classified as short-term device and long-term device. Short-term devices include intra-aortic balloon pump and extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, Impella, Tancor, Rotaflow, Centrimade. And long-term devices, artificial ventricles, for example, Thoratec, paracorporeal ventricular assist device. Now, short-term devices are used in a bridge to recovery in cardiogenic shock, in acute coronary syndrome, in post-cardiotomy and myocarditis. After percutaneous intervention or surgical revascularization, when you see that then acute vitreal regurgitation is there or interventricular septal is ruptured, then we go for this short-term devices. And then bridge to decision. A post-cardiopulmonary arrest, we use bridge to decision. Then bridge to bridge means in stabilization and implantation of a long-term ventricular assist device. Long-term devices are used bridge to heart transplantation therapy till donor is available. Bridge to heart transplantation therapy till donor is available. Then bridge to destination therapy when transplantation is contraindicated. We put VAD till death as a palliative therapy. This you can see the CRT, you can see ICD, you can see short-term device, this extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. Long-term device, these are the ventricles used. Then the surgical treatment, very important. Surgical treatment in end-stage heart failure, in stage D. Cardiac transplantation when ejection fraction less than 20%. Dynamic cardiomyoplasty. Wrapping the left latissimus dorsi muscle around a dilated and failing heart and stimulating it to contract synchronously with cardiac systole. Introduced in 1985. Then third, partial left ventriculotomy. Batista procedure, also known as heart reduction surgery, introduced by Brazilian cardiac surgeon Batista, introduced in 1994. Then lastly, the total artificial heart. This will eliminate the problem of donor because heart will be of plastic. Now, the clock of challenge is, this is the clock challenging you for your management. So, we have to remember, first challenge is lack of data in India, no registry available. Then, pre-existing rheumatic heart disease, then untreated congenital heart disease, then increase in CAD, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, these chronic kidney diseases, and increase preserved ejection fraction and reduce ejection fraction pathology. Then increase in iron deficiency anemia. In India, babies are deficient in iron. It is also challenge to physicians and cardiologists how to manage. Then see the inadequate reperfusion of STEMI. In heart attack, we are infusing inadequately, and then poor follow-up and drug adherence, poor follow-up. Then gaps in evidence for devices therapy. There are gaps, and then increased cost and underuse of intra-aortic balloon pump and this mechanical life support and transplantation. Then poor financial incentives, then lack of palliative care in India. It is same. So, lack of data, establishing registries for data collection by ICMR and independent hospital using BNP and anti-BNP criteria is lab required. Then persisting rheumatic heart diseases, 25% of all rheumatic heart diseases worldwide having heart failure requiring cardiac valve surgery, but not done in India. Untreated congenital heart diseases, it is 54,000 children have heart failure due to congenital heart diseases every year in India. Timely repair is required. Then increase CAD, diabetes mellitus, hypertension, CKD, it increase preserved ejection fraction and reduce ejection fraction. Here, early better control required. It is challenge for us. Then increase iron deficiency anemia, causing preserved ejection fraction, heart failure, and better control required iron supplementation, which has shown to improve echocardiography parameter of myocardial performance. Inadequate reperfusion of STEMI, only 58.5% receive reperfusion and delayed time presentation and lack of proper infrastructure in dealing with acute coronary syndrome have contributed to heart failure. Therefore, early thrombolytic and revascularization required. And suboptimal guideline-based treatment, majority of physicians. Now listen it properly for physicians. Listen it properly for physicians. Majority of physicians are sensitive to the problem. Only one symptoms of pulmonary venous congestion set in because lack of awareness of physicians on the latest development. Doctors continue with old age practices and are unaware of this new guideline. There has been hesitance among the physicians in initiations of newer drugs which have proven mortality benefit. Education for all doctors, especially those in PHC, regarding the latest development of heart failure therapy and need to initiate drugs with mortality benefit which will reduce readmission rate as well as mortality. Poor follow-up of clinical trials and investigations among the Indian patients due to lack of facilities in the periphery and financial costs involved in travels and investigations. Then gaps in existing evidence of device therapy. Devices used like CIT, ICD with low ejection fraction associated with a significant cost burden to budget. In clinical practice, not all patients afford it because lack of financial resources in India. It is a challenge to India. Then increased cost and underuse of intra-aortic balloon pump and mechanical cardiac support and heart transplantation. They impose extraordinary treatment costs so out of reach to most of the tertiary healthcare centers. Also, there is a shortage of donor hearts in India. Poor financial incentive, lack of insurance coverage in India is main reason behind poor drug adherence in the Indian patient. Availability of low-cost generic medicine to guideline-directed therapy reduces financial burden. Improvement of the public health infrastructure in rural India will help in avoiding unnecessary costs involved in investigations and travel. Then lack of palliative care includes symptom management, emotional support, and communication with the patient and his family. Specific therapy like morphine, oxygen, diuretics, and treatment of heart failure and hypertension. These therapies should be delivered at patient's home. The whole family should receive social support. Thus we can improve this stock of challenges in India for heart failure control. This is the last slide. This is last slide. Future directions, conclusion. Multiple trials have failed to show benefit of any specific treatment of prejudice and infection. A better understanding of pathophysiology may help us recognize new treatment targets. Some of the ongoing trials are hair rejection trial. This trial is testing the role of iron supplementation in patients with heart failure. Very important, iron supplementation. Then mitochondrial injection fraction trial. That trial hypothesized the role of mitochondrial enhancer and one such drug, Bandavia. The Bandavia is being tested. Then EDP trial is testing ivabradine for heart rate control outcome. Then the Optimax trial assessing the role of high intensity interval training, high intensity of interval training in these patients. They hypothesize the deconditioning might causing diastolic dysfunction. Then Socrates reserve trial is evaluating the role of soluble guanine cyclase stimulation in these patients. VRC gut is being tested. Then Paragon heart failure trial, they are testing this angiotensin receptor with neprilysin inhibitor in these patients. All effort will be futile till the clinicians, the physicians accept the existence of a condition called reserved ejection fraction prevails in the world. Attempt to diagnose it at an earlier stage required. Make an active effort to control the coexistent cardiac and non-cardiac conditions also. Clinicians should realize symptoms of dyspnea with normal ejection fraction can still be a heart failure. Heart failure is an important contributor to death and disability in developing countries because of vascular diseases, rheumatic heart diseases, and infectious cardiomyopathy. India is home to 16% of global population, 25% of world coronary heart diseases burden, and 120 million hypertensive, a large number of individuals with rheumatic heart diseases. Thank all of you from my heart that you have shown a chapter of unity. Today, we all have assembled together, and I thank you. I thank you very much.